that something in you where you wanted to strive for better. So describe for me, what has your journey been like in life?
The journey it's been very hard because, I was on public assistance, so it was like, at first it was a boundary there. Anybody knows about public assistance, they don't want you to go so far or they're going to cut it off.
You describe yourself now. Tell me, who's Freddie Stevenson, the man that you are now?
A few years ago, I remember in college, they would always have speakers come in and ask us who we are. I wouldn't have been able to answer the question. It probably would have had something to do with football. I'm a fullback for Florida State. I want to play in the NFL. But now it's just simple. I'm Freddie Stevenson, man of purpose.
This is a passion of mine. The whole premise behind the Jazzie Conversations with Jazz podcast is to spotlight the fact that it is now time for you to get your dope comeback story.
Hey, say Jazzie Conversations with Jazz. Jazzie Conversations with Jazz. Say Jazzie Conversations with Jazz. Jazzie Conversations with Jazz.
Every Monday, I call people into a studio and we dig into their comeback stories, because I know that we see people in their glory and we see people when they're on top, when they can have that silver lining to them, but we all go through some things, right? We all go through some things, and I think once we're real with people and we let people know the trials and tribulations that we've gone through, it only makes us human and it connects one of us.
So I just want to know, what would be your advice to someone who is looking to start their own podcast?
First and foremost, let me back up. Find your voice. What are you going to talk about? Is it something that people want to listen to? How long will your podcast be? What's going to be the consistency of your podcast? Are you going to do it like weekly, daily? Are you going to do it monthly? So once you find that, because that's going to indicate if somebody wants to listen to your podcast or not. I do know how I'm doing it. I'm doing it with God. I'm doing it because this is a passion of mine. And when you are passionate about something, you're not going to stop. So it really it comes down to how bad do you want it.
All right. Happy Monday, Jazzie crew. This is a fantastic Monday. You know that Monday is my favorite day of the week because Monday is that day where you set your goals. Sometimes we have to reset our goals depending on what those goal results have been from the previous month or the previous week. And so be intentional about your goals for this Monday. Hit the reset button, recharge, do whatever it is you need to do to get to that clarity space in your head where you are on the right trajectory to crush all of your goals. So welcome to another exciting, pivotal episode of the Jazzie Conversations with Jazz podcast. You know that I am your host, 𝗧𝗵𝗲 𝗟𝗊𝗪, mother, educational leader, and also an event and podcast host. And so it is such a pleasure to be with you consistently every single week. What I need for you to do in order to say that you are a part of my Jazzie crew, you have to make sure you are subscribed on the YouTube channel. Make sure that you are following, make sure that you're liking and you are sharing on Facebook, IG, on YouTube, and your favorite podcast platform. This platform is dedicated. It's purposed to spotlight the power of the comeback. I believe that you can come back from anything with God, the right resources, using those resources effectively, and also doing the necessary work. Before we get into today's episode 143, the love episodes, I want to send a major shout out and thank you to the NAACP of Haines City, their CRA. Both of those boards did a tremendous job with the inaugural Black Expo. It was the Black Business Expo. It was an amazing time. I had the pleasure of moderating 2 different panels. We did an entrepreneurial panel and we also did a marketing panel. And so the information gathered used during that particular time was so amazing and so critical to new business owners, seasoned business owners, everyone there. We were in a silo of just sharing information and giving tidbits on how to be the best entrepreneur going into this 2025 year. So we know that it is February. February is the month of Black History Month. So we are celebrating Black History Month 365 days, not just those 28 days in February or 29 if it's a leap year. We are celebrating it year round. We are also paying homage to one of my favorite topics, and that is love. You know that I love me some love. If you have been following me, you know that I love love. And so for the month of February, I have the privilege to speak to several couples who are going to come and share how they are successful in their relationships. How has love worked out for them? And so for you singles, even those of you who are in a new marriage or new relationships, I hope that these episodes in February serve as a roadmap, as a precursor to how to make it work. All right. So without further ado, I want to introduce you to my special guests. For episode 143, I have the pleasure of speaking with Greg and Sharina George. They've been married for 23 years and have dedicated their lives to faith, family, and serving others. With a strong foundation in ministry, they have spent most of their marriage mentoring, teaching, and uplifting individuals to walk in their purpose. Their passion for service extends beyond the kingdom, leading them to impact their community through real estate, affordable housing, and building generational wealth. With a combination of 20 plus years of construction and 10 plus years of marketing, they combine their love of ministry with business, creating opportunities for their families, aspiring homeowners, and future entrepreneurs. So I want to make sure that you guys tap into this episode because you are about to not only have a roadmap to a successful marriage, but you are also going to get some tidbits into their business side because they do business together as well. So Greg and Sharina, how are you this evening?
Doing good, doing good.
Hey, Jasmine, we're doing really good. We're so appreciative to be here on this Monday.
Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being my special guest. It means a lot to me that you agreed to share these essential tidbits. I look at you as pros because you're not in the honeymoon phase at all. You are seasoned. You're 23 years in. So although I said the honeymoon, you're not in that honeymoon phase. I reached out to you because what I'm seeing from social media is the love and respect and the honor that you guys have for one another. When I see a couple who have not only been okay in the household, like I love you in our household, but I love you even more so that I'm going to do work with you where I'm going to still after we leave the house, we're going to still see one another. And I just think that is just so fascinating to me. So how do you make that work? What is the secret sauce into that formula?
Well, I'll go first, I guess, with this one. We learn how to be in our own pockets. We know what we do well one to another. I'm not administrative. She is. So I'm kind of more of the boots on the ground kind of person. But we stay in our pockets, and then whatever her expertise is, or even my expertise, we respect that, and we also, I think, we revere it because I know when to comment, when not to, and when to just kind of let her do her thing, even though it may be uncomfortable for us or me per se. So that's definitely one of the things that we do.
Yeah, and I agree with that. And I think the way that we found out what those were is that every so many months, maybe once a quarter, we literally sit down and tell each other 5 things we admire about one another, which, in life, sometimes that changes. So
Yeah.
since I found out what he really sees in me and what I see in him, when we're out there kind of working, we're able to push and kind of pull on that he does love that, going to the store, getting those materials, like you said, that boots on the ground, kind of putting things together. And then administratively, down through the years, he's learned to let me lead in that aspect and then let him lead. But I think it's real important, like in our private time, to really be fortified, because like your public success is made up of your private connection. Your private challenges that you handle together make you more successful publicly.
And I think we are who we are in public and at home. So it's easy for us to kind of be at home and do the same thing. Just because, I mean, we like being around each other. So
That is such a great thing. It
makes
is
it a lot
so
easier. Yeah, it makes it a whole lot easier for sure.
I can see that, and I totally agree with that comment. And so, like, what I like to do when I talk to different people, it's just so fascinating to me. Like, I love for a man, to speak so highly of his wife. Like, I look at his eyes, I look at his body language when he's speaking of his wife, and when everything is glowing, I'm so in tune to that. And likewise, conversely, when a wife is able to talk about her husband and he's like still the apple of her eye, and just the things that I hear when they pour into one another, I'm like, yeah, that's what I want. Like, I want that, but I know that it does not come overnight. I absolutely know that. I know that it takes work. I've heard all of the stories because I'm enthralled with this love topic. I've always been interested in people's love, and I've always loved a good love story. So tell me the origin story of Greg and Sharina. How did you guys meet? What do you guys consider to be your love story? How did this all happen?
You want to tell?
You can go ahead.
All right.
I
So
like to hear it from his perspective.
because it's the truth. Anyway, we actually met at church. We didn't really know each other that well, and she actually became friends with my sister, my little sister, and we were just friends. There was nothing going on but the rent. And I like that aspect because even within our conversation at church, we kept it kingdom, as they say. We did, even with our conversations at night, we were just talking. We were just good friends. There was no, I don't think it was anything. We didn't have any conversation at all.
I was dating, and I think you were dating. You were engaged, and I was dating.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
So there.
Okay, yeah.
So
Okay.
yeah,
How old were you guys at that time?
You were 24, right? I was 17 and he was 24.
Okay.
Yeah. So we were just, at church. I was looking for a wife, and at the time, even though I was engaged, it was kind of weird. It was on its way out, basically. But we just kind of ended up talking one day, and we kept talking, and a friend of ours, a mutual friend of ours, she was like, Sharina would make a good wife for you. And I was kind of like, yeah, I don't know. And literally, we started talking again.
Yeah.
And here we go, 23 years later, after she turned me down for a date.
Yes, I did. I wanted to be really honest. He invited me out for, I think, the 4th of July, but another gentleman asked me first.
Yeah.
And I said, I want to be honest with you. Someone else asked me before you. I just want to be honest with you. I guess he vowed to never speak to me again. He was so hurt by that. But kind of reversing it just a little bit. I was at church one day. We were friends. Hey, Greg, bump each other, hit each other on the arm. One of the sisters from the church called me over to her and said, that's your husband. And I said, well, who's my husband? And she said, him, right? They're pointing to Greg. And I was like, Greg's my husband. I'm like, he's engaged to be married. And I told God, I said, well, God, I know you aren't in the business of me taking what belongs to another or wanting what belongs to another. So engagement to me was really serious. And so I said, well, God, if this is supposed to be, this will be a you thing. It won't be me and his DM any kind of weird. It won't be, I don't even think it was DM at that time, but because we just got out of pagers. But, I said, it won't be me to come in between them two. I was working at Boston Market. He used to come in for meals. his sister worked with me. She came in maybe about a month or so after that and said, "You'll never believe what happened. My brother broke off the engagement. They had some type of argument." And I was like, "Are you serious?" And all of the words from the young lady at the church came back to me. "That's your husband." And I said, "God, if this is you, you'll deal with that. I won't be the cause of a breakup. I won't be the cause of any of that, because you reap what you sow." And
Right.
so that organically fizzled, and he came on in the Boston market, got his meals. I was nervous around him ever since he broke up with the girl. I was so nervous. I'm like, "Oh my goodness, I'm talking to my husband. Do he know I'm his wife? Do we
So, were
know?"
at that time did you start to get those feelings because of the things that someone had told you? Because you said it was like platonic at the beginning. So, Sharina, what started getting these butterflies fluttering with you?
I think when it seemed like he really liked to be around me. So he says even to this day, he wasn't thinking of marriage. It was still a friendly thing, especially after I turned him down for the date. I said, "I want to be honest with you." Someone else did ask me. And he was just like, "This woman is really honest." But he was so mad. And he said he prayed to God and said, "God," he had quite a few connects in his phone. "God, if it's meant for me to be with her, you
Yeah.
allow each of them to just fall off. Each woman, and each woman in his phone or however it went began to fall off. Didn't work. And I was the only one left." And he said, "Well, I said I wasn't going to call her again." But he said for that 2 week period, he couldn't get me out of his mind. And that just like give you butterflies right there.
Yeah.
Couldn't get me off your mind. And
Yeah.
yeah, we talked. He ended up inviting me out again. We dated for about 6 months and got married. So I turned 18 and then 2 weeks later got married.
Wow.
So yeah.
Okay. Greg, I want to go back to something that you stated. You stated that you were engaged, but you also stated that you were looking for a wife.
Mhm.
So what makes a 24-year-old ready to find a wife? I know at that particular time you've graduated from college. If you went the college route, you're just now embarking on what real life is like as a man, a single man being in the world. So how did you get that mindset so early on?
Well, my parents have been married for now going on 50 years.
Ooh, yeah,
So I understood that stability came when you have somebody to do it with, and is that extra layer of support.
yeah,
I can tell you that it was just about being for real about it. I know in 2025, there are so many people that aren't the idea of being married
yeah,
and actually doing marriage are two completely different things, because a lot of people don't like the commitment. They
yeah,
always look at it as an out clause, but I understood that I'm going to do it once and that's it. And
yeah,
I wanted somebody that would be about our relationship. That was one of the key factors, I think, when we started talking, was that I told the Lord I wanted somebody that if we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this once, and we both had the same mindset. There
yeah,
was it is nobody else. It's not family, friends. Nobody else is in this relationship but us. And if this other person can portray that, then absolutely we're all in. But
mhm,
that was my mindset, is that I just needed somebody to do life with, and I had seen it all my life. I mean, my grandparents were married. God,
Okay.
oh man,
Over 50, right?
yeah, they were married so long. I didn't even know how long they was married. Been
yeah,
married all my life. But again, it was that sort of thing that I just knew that I saw the entire time, and I know that a spouse with me, I was better off. So
yeah.
that was kind of the mindset, and I just made sure that that's something that I wanted. And once I was for real about it, that's kind of the stages that I took.
So I find it's more of a heavier shift when I'm talking in relationships or talking to people who are in thriving relationships. I tend to lean heavily on the male side, and only from a biblical standpoint because of
Mhm.
the Bible verse that says he who finds a wife finds a good thing, right? And so
Mhm.
and people, seasoned people have come in my inbox because I used to talk about love all the time, and there used to be all of these cliche memes and sayings of you'll find your right person, and it always talked about the female finding someone. And I used to always have someone religiously, whenever I would post those things, she would slide into my inbox, and she was an ex's relative, and she was just like, "Jazz, you will not find anything, he will find you." So stop putting it out there like you're going to be the one that's going to find someone. He is going to find you. And so with that context, I always shoot for the gusto. So I'm like, okay, men, how do you know that she's the one? Like, you were engaged and you had this mindset of what you wanted in a spouse, because originally you thought that this person had it. So I'm wondering, did she start to show you things outside of what you wanted? And Sharina was just like, okay, I've seen what my mother looks like in a marriage. I've seen what my grandmother looks like in a marriage. And it's more so that Sharina is following along this trajectory, whereas the person that I was engaged with did not. Is that what happened?
Well, so the other relationship, it hit a brick wall that was unrecoverable.
Yeah.
So because of that, I understood then that, and I think that's part of my emotional makeup, that once I was all the way done with something, that was it.
Was it?
And that's just kind of the way I've been. And what I realized, even when we first started talking, there was a point where I told her that, yeah, I'm not marrying you. I mean, because your idea of what's supposed to happen once we get married is not it. So I told her to her face, yeah, we're not getting married.
Yeah.
So we got to figure this out. And
Gotcha.
because I understood the dynamics of a relationship and what it took, and I think that what we did was we kind of worked it out just so that it was like, okay, I made her understand what that looks like from my eyes and my perspective. She kind of gave it to me, and then it was literally, it kind of organically worked itself in. But I think also God had a lot to do with that,
Yeah.
because I, like she said, like I if Lord, if this is the person for me, then either she'll stay through this or she leaves through this. And he never went wrong every time I had to pray. I
Yeah.
mean, when she said that, I told the Lord to basically clear out the phone book, because a lot of men have the black book, but he cleared it. He cleared out the cupboard,
Yeah.
and she was the last man standing. But it was an intentional prayer, because I was the type of person that I didn't like doing all that. It wasn't my thing.
Yeah.
And I was not a man in the church just sleeping around with folks and all that craziness. But it was literally me trying to find a wife,
Yeah.
period.
Yeah.
So because of that, and because I wanted to be true to my faith in him first, I knew that this was not a time to play games. I had zero time for that, because I was down to business and wanted to find my wife so that we can. And again, like I said, it's organic. I know that that's what the scripture says, and eventually he has the last say so,
Yeah.
because the man ultimately says, okay, this is the woman that I'm going to marry. But it was still a bit more organic than people kind of give it credit for, because yeah, it was literally like okay, we started talking a little bit more. And what was funny was, while we were friends, what she didn't know was we'd be talking on the phone, but I was just trying to stay up because I had a third shift job and a first shift job. So I was,
You were up.
yeah, I'm trying to maximize some time. So I was trying to make sure that I didn't fall asleep on the job. So
Yeah.
we were talking.
You wanted some things.
Hmm?
And you physically had some desires, right?
Well, then there's that.
Yep.
But
Then there's that.
nonetheless,
He wanted someone like,
anyways, so but again, she also fit a profile. Everybody has their wish list of
Yeah.
things, but also I think that this is a good time to interject that nobody will be the perfect person.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
what you see today is 23 years in the making. The man that I am, the woman that she is today, is not the way we started, but we had a commitment that which was key. We had a commitment that we were both doing this one time, and I told her that if you don't think that we can do this one time and never again, this is not that.
Gotcha.
And that's kind of literally kind of how it came together.
So Sharina, from that point that he asked you out after you said no, what was it when you found out that he was no longer engaged? You got this, revelation from someone who just felt that he was your husband. What did it take for you? Like, how did you know? Because a man can think that you're his wife, but it may not be the case. Because I'm pretty sure that I know for a fact that happened. I know that for a fact that that happens, right? And so, what was it about Greg where you saw him as your husband?
I think it was, well, the combination of her saying that something connected with me. So I think that started, it just opened my mind up to my husband. It's a good friend. And
Yes.
so after that, I don't know, I guess once that seed is planted, there's a little bit of growth there. And then I liked how my husband had this leadership about him.
Yeah.
I knew with how strong my personality can be. I'm very I'll help you and I'm there and I'm supportive, but I can be pretty strong as well. And I needed a person who was definitely a leader type. I needed a person who served God first.
Yeah.
And I really needed someone who kind of had a picture of marriage in front of him because I came from the other side of the tracks where
Okay.
I didn't see marriage, where I didn't see people stay together, people with multiple baby fathers, baby mothers, just a lot of different family disconnect. And
Mm-hmm.
so when I saw that he was physically handsome to me, he had his mom and his dad. I love the fact that he sung. We used to sing in a choir, praise team
Okay.
together. And he used to come into choir rehearsal with his little pant leg up. So I fell in love with the ankle too. The ankle, I just rub the ankle when I get mad about, just thank you, Jesus, for the ankle.
Right.
But
Say something to me, please. Say something.
thank God. And so just I think really fitting the different parts of it. I think for me, I was so young. My
Yeah.
question was, God, will this man love all of me? I felt like he really loved me through a lot of trauma the first 10 years
Okay.
because we got married and it was like, I think he was a little more seeing his parents used to what marriage would be like. And for me, I mean, I was pregnant, I was 6 months, and he was out of town working a job for a week. And I thought I was supposed to leave him because he didn't want to be with me and the baby when work was just something he needed to do. So I wasn't wife, in the mind. And I think he really had to love me through a lot of that. And I
Yeah.
think God gave him strength through seeing his dad, through seeing family structure, through seeing, and then this next part of the marriage really loving on him and pulling out the king that he is. And you're this, you're author, you're writer, you got this. It's gonna be all right, babe. So I think we both in our seasons have had to kind of help each other develop through. But initially, young girl,
Yeah.
saved, trying to love Jesus. I asked God, can I be a wife at 18? Is that possible? You told me to
That
ask.
you totally that was a direct question that I was going to ask you. Like, how do you even know that you're ready to be this wife at the age of 18? And like, I know several marriages who are still on their way to forever from getting married, like right out of high school. I remember them getting engaged in high school, at my high school, and they're still thriving now. But it's like, I wonder, like, what is that? What does that messaging sound like when you know you're ready at that young age?
Well, I'll echo what I told my son's girlfriend. She said, Miss Sharina, do you think I could be a wife? I think she's 18 as well.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I don't think it's about if you can be a wife. You're 18, you can sign a dotted line. I think is, are you willing to love this man, my son, if it's my son, through all of his seasons? I had to look at my husband, and when we both decided this will be one time, will I love him if we drive away from here and we're in an accident? Do I love him in a wheelchair? What if we're, walking outside and someone, I don't know, splashes something and his face is not the same? Like, will I love him no matter what? Will I love him at his core? And will I love him through all of his seasons? I've gone through losing my dad. He's gone through losing loved ones. We've seen the best and the worst of one another. But at the end of the day, can I see myself sticking with this man? I didn't look at any divorce, no way out, no option. We both jumped off the plane with no parachute.
Yep.
When we were going downtown to get married, we got married at the Justice Center.
Yeah.
He said, we're doing this once. And I said, yes, sir, we're only doing this once. So I jumped out. And even to today, at 23 years, we still don't have a parachute. There is no out. It is us. It is
Yeah.
us against the world was our little song. You know,
That's a 𝗧𝗵𝗲 𝗟𝗢𝗪.
Yeah, music so child.
Okay. I love that. So I'm 45 and I'm not married, but I've had, long relationships with people, and I know for a fact that the person that you start with is not going to be the person that you end with in terms of the person that you are, the person that they are, because we all change and we all grow. Like I'm looking at, wow, this person got to see me through my 20s, my 30s, right? This person got to see me in my 40s. And I'm looking and I'm like, I was a completely different woman in every single one of those facets of my life. And so what I keep hearing you say is that we made the decision. We came up with the conclusion that this is only going to happen one time, and we have to make it work. And so I, for a long time, was on that side of it just has to be romance. Like it has to feel like I have to feel the butterflies. And then reading literature where it just says it really is not the butterflies, because the butterflies should be your warning. If you feel the butterflies, that's a warning. You should feel calm around it. Like the person should be your solace. Like he should be like your helpmate. Like you go to this person, you should just feel calm. Like your nervous system should be at ease when you are around this person. And I'm just like, oh, but I want to go to the movies. Let's go. Let's be the people in the movies. Like we just have romance and I just love you through all of these things and I'm smiling and it just should feel good all the time. That's not real life, right? Because there are going to be some days where it doesn't feel good. It's going to be some days that you probably don't even look good to one another. But it is that mindset. And I loved how you said, quarterly, just like in a business, you reassess and you calibrate. You have to calibrate with one another. What has that journey been like? Because I'm seeing you as being so young in love. What are those early lessons? What were those lessons like? What did you have to learn about your misconceptions? Because that's what I've led into was my misconceptions about what love is and what it should feel like. Like, what were your misconceptions and how did you get over it? How did you get through it?
I think first, we had to come to the realization that what we saw does not always work for us.
Yeah.
I can't tell you even some of the traditions that I did as a kid, and even as a young adult, that I brought into the marriage. They weren't bad traditions. I had to learn to modify them to fit our relationship. Every blueprint that you read is only for the structure that it was given to.
Yeah.
And I had to realize that blueprint didn't fit our relationship. Now you can always take bits and tidbits and pieces, but at the end of the day, it has to be what you're building together, and be willing to adjust. I'm in construction, so that's the only thing I can think of is blueprints. You have to be willing to adjust it as you go. I can't tell you how many times we had to recalibrate because, like, she told me, well, you know what? On this specific holiday, I want to go to see my family this year.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
he's like, what? He thought I had
absolutely not.
Like I had sinned.
What are you talking about? This is what we always do.
Yeah.
But I had to learn that was counterproductive to us as a couple. So I had to learn that. But again, it's those little things, and you'd be surprised that when both of you are willing to make the adjustments along the way and be for real about it, I think it makes that transition and even what we go through a lot easier, because it's a selfless environment. And I think that, even from some of the singles and couples that we talked to, a lot of people are not willing to be selfless within a relationship. If you're going to be married and you're aspiring to be married, selfless first. This relationship is not going to be about how to make you better, how to make you live your best self and all of that. This is about how you can make them the best that they can be, and vice versa. And if you don't have that in a relationship, and you don't have a person or persons that literally love God outside of each other,
Yeah.
it'll
It's not,
never work. It'll
yeah.
never work, because the way we fight, the way we argue, the way we talk, it's all going to be completely different. So
It is, and I agree. I was thinking about SOS, skin on skin contact,
Mhm.
and how important. I know he always laughs because when we when we when we talk with any married couple, any
Yeah.
married length of time, our first question is, what is your intimate life? And you'd be
Yeah.
surprised at how the conversation sparks from there. But I think it's making sure as women, we don't feel that we have this power to withhold from our husband. So misconception, you hear again, unmarried on my side, married on his. Oh, if
Yeah.
he's not doing right, you don't have to, and don't be intimate with him if you don't feel. No, that's so far from the
Yeah.
truth.
Yeah.
That the two of you need to stay together. I had to learn that after maybe like year 8 or 9, maybe 10 in there, that our skin on skin, the 15-second touches, the sitting on the couch, legs in her, to like we're just out at Home Depot, kissing in the aisle, like all of that really does make a difference. And I think our love is so out loud in the public because it's out loud behind the scenes. So that was something that I had to self correct, because that can really lead your men into a downward spiral that is so unhealthy. You withholding intimacy from him when you don't feel like it, when you got a headache, when you know it's about me pleasing you, you pleasing me, and together we please each other in that sense. But then even in the business sense and in the ministry sense, oh man, you sing that word, you preach that word, because we're constantly pushing one another, we
Yeah.
find ourselves growing. It's a sacrifice. The marriage covenant is a death covenant. And it's no longer I, but it's we, it's us. How
Yeah.
are we gonna attack this thing? And I love what someone said, instead of attacking us like we're the problem, let's get together and team up on the actual problem.
Absolutely.
And
I
so
love that.
intimacy is so important. We start every marriage session with that, and you'd be surprised at how that affects so many other veins. And so when we're always together, touching, loving on one another, I think it definitely kind of strengthens the bond.
Yeah. If you had to say one characteristic that was very important to you in terms of having a wife, Greg, having a husband, Sharina, what would you say was the most important quality? Because I've heard where it's a philosophy where men say, what's most important to me is respect. Whereas women say, what's most important to me is that I feel protected or that I feel taken care of. So what's your characteristic where it's like, this is a characteristic of my most important need from you as a partner?
for me, it was her loving God outside of me.
Hmm.
And I'll repeat that only because when I'm going through something, or if we're struggling in a certain sense, if I can't pray, I know she can.
Yeah.
If for some reason something's going on with me, then I have that support that can get a hold to God to fix everything else. I can't tell you how many times where we were in, just for lack of better words, a fight of our lives when it comes to our relationship,
Yeah.
and she was able to tap in when it seemed like I couldn't, and vice versa, because that was that characteristic right there. Because even when we argued, we it set boundaries. Even in our arguing, in our victories, it set boundaries. In our up, it set boundaries, because that was the main thing for me. Because if she has God, then I don't have to worry about all of the other stuff.
Yeah.
Wherever my wife is, if I don't talk to her for 2 hours, I don't have to, because I know she's doing what she's supposed to, because she loves God more than she loves me. And I think that was definitely the main component for me, because after that, everything else we can work itself out.
Okay. That's a good one. Sharina, what was it for you?
I love that. I think the ability to and the desire to provide for me.
Yeah.
Because that was big for me. I really wanted to know not just the ability, because in our marriage, of course, he's lost a job, I've lost a job, so finances fluctuate. But ultimately, I wanted to know that I had a man who would do whatever it took to
Yeah.
provide for our family. That was really important because I wasn't about to be a wife providing for all of us. Would not, but that would have been just a whole total deal. No, it was not about to happen, but he wanted to. Like, I'm looking at some of these shows out here, like Pop the Balloon and Finding Love and different things. And they talk about this 50-50 thing that I'm not familiar with. I'm just so unfamiliar. My husband, I don't even know what that looks like, because he's like, hey, the bills are on me. You're going to do. So if I help, especially we had small children. So I was at home a lot, but
Yeah.
he wanted to, and it was exampled in front of him. It was exemplified through his father being a provider. And I never knew what that looked like, because a
Yeah.
lot of the women in my family, even though they had men, they still provided. And I thought it was such a interesting dynamic that my aunt is paying the bills and the man is always there. Like, what? And I said, well, when I get married, God, I want the man to want to provide for me. I'm not about to be a
Please,
whole
God.
woman.
Greg and
Very.
Sharina, before y'all go to bed tonight, please send that up for me. Please, Lord.
Can I expand on that? Can I expand on that just a
Yes,
little
because
bit?
as the man, I want you to, because my
So
gosh, a lot of people are making seven figures in this podcast space off of this very topic
yeah,
of debunking this. Like, no, you guys, that's not what it is. Like, that's not what a relationship is. Like,
but
men are just not gonna just do that. Like, you're living in the whatever, the 70s. And I'm just like, who
I
made
think
men? Why do you want a lady to take care of you? Like, was it this independent woman phase that just really like messed with your brain, and you're like, well, you're independent, you make money just like I make money, I'm taking care of the kids just like you take care of the kids, so what makes you any different? I have like, oh my gosh, I get a fever every time I have these conversations. It's just like, who made you, sir? So yes,
right.
Greg, please chime in, because
So
I know
let me,
I know it's an equally yoked thing. I know it is. Sharina has to do certain things that as a man you are just not built to do. It is her role. I just it is so equal when it comes to the different important aspects of a marriage, and what I have observed and educationally heard. So yes, please chime in on this.
so let me touch on something that you said a few seconds ago, and you talked about being equally yoked.
Yeah.
Um, the equally yoked, I can tell you that it's not about strength.
Right.
It's about intention and purpose. If we're walking in the same direction, then
Right.
that makes us equally yoked, because even though my side may be a little heavier than hers, the point is that we're going in the same direction. What makes people unequally yoked is because they're going in opposite directions.
Yeah.
If I'm going to the church and she's going to the club, that's unequally yoked, because your intention behind your relationship with us is being influenced by something other than what's holding us together.
Yeah.
And because of that, that's what happens. But let me say this. It's never 50-50 at any time. My mom worked a whole job and sometimes two. Just like my dad worked a whole job and sometimes two. He worked long hours to provide, to make sure that we had what we had, what we needed, etc. And there were times where my mom was in school and my dad was holding it down. Period. And then there were times where he was doing school and he had one job and she had two jobs, again, because it was never we got to do everything 50-50, da 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 da. But with me, it was okay, I'm gonna have us one way or the other, because we ain't going down. That's
Yeah.
not an option, so we're gonna have to figure this thing out. And it won't be because I'm not doing something. I don't care what I remember I lost a job and she was like, well, what we gonna do? And I'm like, well, I started walking to find a job. I was walking to stores, I walked to a job fair, got a job, what, that same day, next day, something like that. But again, because we were not gonna not have. So we're
Yeah.
gonna figure this thing out. But it's never 50-50. And if you expect, and I think men nowadays expect it because their example has not been what we've seen.
Yeah.
But and they've been told, well, if she gonna come to the table, she gotta come with half of everything but why?
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm gonna
What
tell you,
what
like,
king what king tells his queen that she has to have half the kingdom?
I think for generational trends, for lack of a better phrase, at some point, I'm just gonna say, like, I watched my father take care of all the bills, etc., like the majority of the bills. And the only bills that my mom really had to pay for were things that were kind of like out, like the cable bill or something like that. That may have been like the heaviest bill that she had was the cable bill, and he paid for everything else, right? And so I came from a household where I saw my father be the provider. But the one thing that my father always instilled in me that was just like, okay, game on. I got you, Dad. He would just always say, you make sure that you position yourself where you do not ever have to depend on the man. Right. And it's like that just was drilled in my head. Don't depend on the man. Don't depend on the man. Don't depend on the man. And I think I took that too far because I did not let men do for me, really. And I know that if some of my exes were to see this episode, they would be like, huh? Because I did this or whatever. But in retrospect, what they probably have done for other women is not even what they had to do for me is not even in comparison for it. So Sharina, when you said, I can't imagine, a man is there and a woman is paying most of the bills. I've been in that situation because I was hell bent on, no, you're going to have your house and I'm going to have my house. And that is just it. Like, I want to prove to myself that I can make it without you. That was just like a point in my life where it's just like, I have to prove this to me. That even when kids started to come, I have to see that I can do this by myself. And it was just like this warped feeling of, I don't want to have to put myself in a position where I have to depend on you because you're not my husband, right? And I have to be able to prove to myself that I can do this. And guess what? I was let. I certainly was able to do that. Just like, that's what you want to do? Then do it. Mortgage, everything. And I sat back here and I'm like, boo boo the fool. Like, yes, if I needed help, it came. But it wasn't like that, how you said a king is gonna like do that, for his queen, is gonna make a queen do that. I'm like, I am literally, what am I trying to prove? Because okay, the point is proven. Like, I could do this, but now I'm at a situation where now I kind of resent you a little bit because you sat here and you let me do all this stuff. Why? So it's just like, yeah, we got to be careful as women when we try to prove that we can do some things. And I'm just like,
So let me watch this. A lot of men don't like the woman being the man,
right?
because we as providers, I think we're naturally providers, and
Yeah.
if we don't think we can provide anything for you, then we feel useless. So we go to find somewhere where we can be useful. And
No.
for 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 me, it was definitely a okay, what can I do for her to make her better?
Yeah.
And also, what will she add to me to make sure that I'm better? And I think that was one of the major components. But in this time, one of the things that, and somebody might not like me for this, but I'm gonna say it anyway. The dynamic between a lot of us men who are, let's say, in our older 40s, was that we had both parents in the home or a dad who was there in some capacity,
Yeah.
who was providing in some way. But now you have these young men that were coming up and their mother catered to them because their dad wasn't doing something.
Yeah.
And because of that, it almost a dynamic of, okay, well, my mama did all of this stuff for me, so that means that my wife should be like my mama. No, that's not correct.
Yeah.
And the other way with women, it's almost like a, okay, I'm so in fear of this man leaving you. I want to make sure you stay self-sufficient and you don't ever have to depend on nobody ever in life anymore, because I don't want somebody to hurt you like they hurt
Yeah.
me. And now you vicariously lived through somebody else's pain, when in fact that should have never been your stance.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to be all in, you're open and vulnerable to hurt and pain, period. And
Yeah.
if you can't do that, you don't need to be married. Because when we decided that we were going to do this thing, we understood that we were going to be wide open with this thing. And man, it comes with it sometimes with certain small things, but overall, we try to make sure that we don't hurt one another to the point where it's, oh my God, this is over.
Do you guys didn't have to worry about the situation of coming together with a blended family, or did you?
Yeah, a little bit. Yes, I had a 3-year-old and he had a 3-year-old. Then together we had the 4 more. So they
Okay.
were really young. His daughter was in another state, and then my daughter was here in the home. So kind of blended, but they were so young.
Yeah. Yeah. So how did that play a factor in your marriage?
Whew. It was easy and difficult at the same time. Because I had our daughter at 3, it was a little easier. It
Yeah.
wasn't until she got a little older, and her dad came back around, where it started to really get difficult.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I prided myself on was she didn't have a daughter and I didn't have a daughter. We had 6 kids,
Yeah.
period.
Yeah.
So no matter who you talk to nowadays, until we tell them, they never knew that she wasn't mine.
Yeah.
And I think that was for me extremely important, because I was not going to love her any different
Yeah.
than I love the rest of them.
Good.
And I think even with that, I mean, and it had its moments, and it was not easy.
Yeah.
But again, we were committed to each other. That was most important. We were committed to each other, so that at that point, whatever happened, it was going to be dealt with, us against it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like we were before our kids. Like
Mhm.
date night was before our kids, because if we could show them healthy relationship, I think
Yeah.
that was one of the best things that I could show my kids. Coming from the family dynamics, I really wanted them to show them relationships, supporting your man,
Mhm.
supporting your husband and whatever he's doing. And I think that the kids were able to see that. And though our daughter, when she got maybe about 15, 16, and her natural father came around and she went kind of wild. Now she's come back about 22, 23, dad this, dad that. So she
Yeah.
realized who, took care of her, but we didn't let that dynamic come in between this.
Good.
Because we knew this,
So one of the things that I always want to, I guess, place a nail in terms of marriage, because it's something that's conflicting to me. You have a lot of marriages that look totally different. You have a lot of people who just think that the institution of marriage is something that's archaic and it wasn't necessarily biblical. They'll argue that point. You have some people who say that our marriage is our marriage and our marriage may not look like your traditional marriage, and so therefore we are okay with having an open marriage because human beings are not built to be monogamous. And you have all these different ideas of what marriage is, or can marriage still stand the test of time. And the one thing that I don't know, the one thing that I do know is that a couple, like you stated, you come with this mindset of we're gonna make it work through anything, right?
Mhm.
But then you have people who have an idea of, no, if it's infidelity involved, that's it. You've broken the covenant. That is absolutely it. It's no us anymore. What are your thoughts on that? Like, because for me, that is like the real test of, can marriage last? Like, what are we saying here? Are we saying that we are going to go through toe to toe through anything? That's what we're saying. Is that your philosophy?
So I think because we talk about it, when we were saying our vows, we talked about better or worse,
Mm-hmm.
sicker, sickness and health.
Right.
We talked about
Rich or poor.
rich and poor, but for us with the infidelity, we said keeping ourselves to ourselves. So that was
Forsaking all others.
others to keep ourselves. That was absolutely not acceptable for us. So
Yeah.
thank God we haven't had to deal with anything like that. But for us, I think it was more of I think just a health, a safety. I think I'd be in those situations where I've had to speak with women who have
Yeah.
gone or is going through that. There's a constant comparison too. There's a breaking down, there's a depression. And I see that some marriages do survive through that. But for us, it's like, hey, it's just us. So with and the infidelity was the only thing. There'll be no other woman, there'll be no other man. Cause I think it the covenant and that soul tie with
Yeah.
that other person and coming back to the one who you said you'd be faithful to, I think it causes such a breach in the contract that it really does. Okay, it's time to sell this home. Like this, it causes such I think, a breach and a break that will be unrepairable for us. And I know there are some couples who do survive through that. But that was our take. What about you?
I can echo that. I mean, my thing was, again, what I saw. And I saw marriages that if you're faithful to it, it'll work.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about from the male side of it. I didn't, when my dad, we didn't have that issue at all. But even though everything was not always easy, and it was rough at times, because the older I got, the more I saw and understood, I should say.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, he still remained faithful. And at that point, that was a non-negotiable for me, as a man in the relationship, but it's also an expectation for her in the relationship. So I knew I wasn't doing it. And I just the reciprocal was supposed to be the same, that she wasn't doing it, and I had confidence that she wouldn't do it, because a lot of times it's not even going on, and it's just the fear of it,
Yeah.
or the potential that it may be, and it'll literally make it's almost like it keeps poking it, like, oh, there's got to be something, there's got to be something, there's got to be something, there's
Yeah.
got to be something. And,
Yeah.
and because for a long time, a lot of people didn't think that, okay, that a man could actually be faithful to a woman. Like the first, I don't know, 8-9 years of our marriage, they thought that was absolutely untrue.
Yeah.
But that's what I saw a lot of my life. So to me, it was normal. Like, it was normal. But
Yeah.
again, that button that just says it has to be something, it has to be something. And then, that's what starts to create issues. But overall, we both had the understanding that one time, that's it, and nobody else. And because of that, I think that's one of the reasons why we made it this far. So
And I
Yeah.
want to say on top of that, we don't have opposite sex friends outside of one another, just something we've chosen. There's again, the constant touching. There's the mindset that had to shift with me regarding that area and not holding, which I think does weigh on some relationships when a woman doesn't understand that and you're not with him, but once a month or twice a month, that can cause your spouse inadvertently to go back to old habits or go back to, and not saying you're the cause of it, but you've definitely got to be proactive in the intimate area and then not provide any opportunities to be alone and vulnerable with another person. Me in a room with a male by myself talking is an absolute no. There's no long drawn out conversations and texts, and I'm building this friendship with this guy. We don't do that over the 23 years. So I think that helps. It's not to say no one is perfect. Maybe, that has happened in relationships and people survived, but we really try to set ourselves up in that area to really be solely with each other.
yeah,
So
because
that's
even the friends that we have that are females, they're
yeah.
our friends, and not just my friend,
Yeah.
and not just her, and the guys as well. The guys are our friends, even though I have guy friends too. But and I think that allows me to make sure that I stay grounded, because I stay around married men that are faithful to their wives, and make sure that anybody that's in their circle is the same way, because birds of a feather
They do flock together.
They
And
do.
we have each other's passwords. We see each other's phones. If someone
Message.
messages me inappropriately, men are poking me and saying little compliments and all this stuff, I show my husband. We block them together. Like we're really open. We kind of fortify and guard that area.
Mhm.
And I think to me, it just sounds like it's something that you two have to agree that that's how you want to maneuver in that, right?
It must be. It
I'm
must be.
yeah, because like you started off and you said some of the things that you saw that you were trying to bring into the marriage. That is not how your marriage sustained those traditions. Like you had to make those things your own, for the two of you and for your family. You had to make it work for you. And so, just going into this exploration of love and these relationship conversations, I think that is one of the things that we have to learn, is that one thing that works in one relationship may not work in another relationship, because you're dealing with different people and you have to know your person. And even Greg, you started off the episode saying, I know that when she's like this, or when she says that, I know to just get you. It's like you started off
Get
by
off the way.
I know her. Like I've learned her. So this is how we make it work, because we know each other. We've learned each other. We've been together for 23 years.
Yep.
So we know each other, right?
And it takes growth. It takes time.
That's a growth.
Because I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I did not know that up front. And I think that's where the time comes in. And also is where, hey, this is what we are, this is what we're doing. So
Yeah, and
Yeah.
with the learning that part we just covered, we just knew we're not about to be doing that with any other person. I mean, you really open yourself up to this person and say, "Hey, this is solely mine. This is solely yours." And I think to do something otherwise is it's just a betrayal and a all outright disrespectful jab, to your spouse, that, hey, I'm tying myself to you. We have children. This is something that we enjoy together with no one else on the planet. So I think it really, just encourage those who are watching, really sit down with your spouse. If you find yourself growing apart in separate rooms, out away from each other, like, you need to come together and figure out what's happening here.
Mhm.
So I think I would like to, everything that you've talked about has been so informative. It's been informative about the way that your love works. It's been informative about the way that you mentor other couples into keeping their forever, sustaining their relationship as well. And I just wanted to just end this particular episode with you being able to, talk briefly but in depth as much as you want about how you two work in the professional realm, because we're talking about, yes, generational wealth. Real estate is where it's at. Construction is where it's at. Building is where it's at. Greg, I was at BizLink talking to Simone, and you were doing something. It was something that I heard Sharina say that she wanted built, and you were in there building something. And I'm just like, then one time I went in there, you guys had the construction class going on, and I'm like, this is what I'm talking about. Like a couple that can even sustain in the professional realm. They're doing it together and impacting lives in the community for the better. So tell us about what you guys have going on, how you are building your empire. What's going on with the two of you professionally?
So we're definitely both real estate agents.
Yeah.
We've been in for basically all of our lives.
Yeah.
Seem like. And what we've done is we literally, we have the Next Gen Construction Academy. We also have George Development Group. We also have the George Group Real Estate as well. All of that is because we just, I don't know, we like being together. So we might as well work together too, and make some money. So, but again, it's also about knowing our expertise.
Yeah.
Because, there's some things that I can't do without her, and vice versa. And I know that, I respect it. And because of it, it makes us work as a team, because we're willing to say, okay, I'm not good at this. What are we supposed to be doing? And vice versa. And I think that mutual respect is literally what causes us to be able to come in. There have been times where she's come to the construction site and I've done painting, drywall, tile, all of those things. And I've had to go into the office and type out reports and send emails and all of those things. But it's, again, to complement one another, to make sure that we're both thriving. And I think that's the goal, is the both of us thriving. And to make the community better, man, that's like a passion of ours. Like
Yeah.
you can't sit around us and not be better. We're gonna make you better one way or another. You can't sit still around us, not
I
around
love
us.
it.
And I think with what you said, I think we genuinely, you guys, really like the way we both do things. So when we go,
It
let's
can
say,
be annoying just a little bit
just a
sometimes.
little bit, but I think ultimately we
Yeah.
we genuinely love it. So with listing a home, I know that he's able to go in that home and give that seller some suggestions to make sure the property values that point. Hey, I would paint your whole house, one solid color. Under the sink, okay, you had a leak here. This is soft. You need to replace this. So he goes in and tackles. This is to make sure that your house looks the best. Power wash, get the driveway. Me, I'm ordering a photographer. I'm ordering drone. I'm making it look amazing. Hey, everyone, 123 Main Street is available for sale.
Yeah.
And he looks at my marketing and what I'm doing, and he's like, man, she doing that. And
Yeah.
I look at what he's doing. I'm like, man, he doing that.
Because I don't do video like that. She's the video queen.
And
And I just tell me to build something and we're good.
he's good.
But when it comes to the video thing, so after I get through building it, she'll show it off, and it works.
And I admire that. That's a love language. So at the end of the night, though we might not have physically touched or text because we were with each other at work, that's almost a aphrodisiac for us because
Yeah.
you were working very confidently in what you do, and then I was working very confidently in what I do, and together we make this magic. He's writing a book called Leadership DNA, and he's been writing the book for a good 7 years. Like the last year, really solid. And I'm like, honey, I'm publisher. I need to be able to write your book. I've published maybe 10, 11 books for people. You
Good.
gotta get it done. I don't do it professionally, just more in-house right now. But I'm like, hey, you gotta get it done. And he's pacing one day, and I said, well, start to say the book. So he was talking, and so the way that we've been effectively writing his book, fast paced by leaps and bounds. He walks, says it. I'm the
Dictator.
the dictator, just getting it down. And we're like, wow, we are getting through this book. Also,
Yeah.
you're the speaker, and I'm meant to type it for you. That was the disconnect. Why the book wasn't, really coming out like it was supposed to. So he's walking, and I'm like, God, I'm so honored to be typing, my husband's leadership. But this is amazing content, and I'm admiring him, and he's looking over at me like, oh, she typing it, looking good, and we just we just flowing, and this is just in our house. No one's here. So when we go to the grocery store and we flirt about the avocados, they think we newlyweds.
So I clearly know what Sharina's love language is. What is your love language, Greg?
Wow. Let me think. It's changed a little bit.
Okay.
I do like acts of service. I think quality time is becoming a little more important. But I definitely like, what do they call that stuff?
Gifts.
Gifts.
Yeah, so
You said I like stuff.
Sharina, I'll be fair though. What is your love language?
I love acts of service and quality time.
Yeah.
If I wake up and there is a note on the pillow, you are having a nice night, Mr. George.
Listen,
Okay.
affirmation is it for me. Like followed by those that
words of affirmation. Yeah, that's big. That's actually really big.
Yeah. I like words of affirmation, but you got to come with the follow through. Let's do the acts of service.
Yeah, because gifts. I mean, I like a good gift, but for me, if I have time, if we're on the beach, if we're walking, ice cream together, that's a great day for me. Just the little things.
Wasn't these like and then one thing that we have to remember is the way that we receive love is not the way that the partner wants to receive love. So it's like giving and receiving love are two totally different things. The one thing that you guys do share is that quality time with each other. So it makes sense that you are in business together.
Yeah, I think we would really get on each other's nerves.
Yeah.
So listen, before we get out of here, do you have any parting words? Definitely like any advice that you want to give to anyone who's single, someone who is in a relationship where they're feeling a little separate, or just any general information or advice that you want to give to couples. And most definitely tell us how we can connect with you guys and keep up with you guys to support you in business. So what would be your advice?
Yeah, so on Facebook, the George Group, please follow us there, and on Instagram, Sharina George _realtor, and I'll put it in the comments when the show is over tonight. But something that's important, I'll speak to, hey ladies, you got this list, and the list looks amazing. Maybe there's, I'll just say 20 things on your list about
Yeah.
this man. Sometimes we overlook the man because the list isn't evident yet. My list is in this man, but they didn't really come all the way out till year 10, year 12, year 15.
Oh,
So
that's
if
good,
this
Serena.
man,
That's good.
yeah,
And
if
he
this,
didn't see the list, or did he see the list?
no,
Okay. That's a
no,
good point. That's a
yeah.
really, really good point.
Yeah, that list that sometimes maybe the guy, I'm just going to throw out a car wash, maybe he's the manager there, and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
that's not enough to take care of me. But maybe he has those qualities of being a good father, being a provider. He has endeavors to own the car wash, but at the moment he's managing it, and you'll overlook him because you're like, oh, he's not a business owner. So a lot of times those lists they develop over the years, and you'll look back and say, wow, if I had a really stuck to the list, of course, you got your non-negotiables,
That's
whatever
right.
those might be. But a lot of times that list is within the man, and
Yeah.
he comes to grow to exactly who you need him to be. And I think we are at, to me, like 99.5% this man is today. He knows me, I know him. I'm
I'll take that.
yes, 95.5. What about you?
So let me say that if you expect her to be exactly like you and do everything that you want her to do, you are sadly mistaken.
Yeah.
Men, you're marrying this specific woman, and she is not like your mother. She is
Yeah.
not like the person that you emulate. Um, she's not going to be this what all and end all and be all and all of that. But she does have the ability to grow into certain things.
Yeah.
And I think embrace the differences makes the differences better, because there are a lot of things where we are completely opposite. She
Yeah.
can be there and talk to everybody in the room. I won't say it. I won't say not one word.
Yeah.
But that's opposites. But we work together. So everybody, he's got to be like me or she's got to be like me. Embrace the opposites, because typically that's what you actually need. Because
Yeah.
if both of y'all all over the place, somebody needs to be grounded.
Yeah.
If somebody's adventurous, both of y'all don't need to be adventurous. Somebody need to be able to stay at home and say, okay, it's good to be out here sometimes, but sometimes we need to just sit down somewhere. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? So again, embracing the differences. And I think that is what a lot of people don't do, because what we realize is that if I was married to me, I might get on my nerves a lot. I
Yeah.
don't know if I would have stayed married,
That's
and
true.
vice versa. So again, embrace the differences, and I
Yeah.
think that is what will allow you to stay together. And also, I think it's just the two, just the two of us.
I love that.
And as long as you have that, everything else will work itself out.
Good. Just for an added because you guys started singing. What's your favorite song as a couple?
Oh man, that's our theme music.
Is it?
You me, it was just you and me.
You and me against the world.
Yeah.
And if our friends and family can't stand to see us both happy, come on, it'll be just you and me against the world.
Yeah.
Hey, I love that. Yes. You better go, Sharina.
Thank you. Thank you.
So listen, now, and I will say, Greg, now Sharina is the reason why I reached out to you guys, because this woman loves you, and I can tell that you love her too. And I love that she doesn't hide that, because some people have it where, well, if you're married, then it's okay to put your love out there. But it's a lot of, us who are singles and who are just dealing with someone in a long-term relationship, and people are like, it's not a secret. It's just that we're private. And it's like, yeah, you want to be that way, but
Okay.
it's
We ain't got time for that one. But my
right.
thing is
It's
that we're
the way
gonna
that you can
if
do
I
that.
love you, then I'm gonna love you out loud, and it doesn't matter who's looking.
Yeah, I think you
And
just have to do it. What works.
and I also think that it doesn't take 9 years to figure out whether or not we're supposed to be married.
Ooh,
So
could you have
y'all
told me
can.
that a long time
Y'all
ago.
y'all can put that in the comments if y'all mad if y'all want to. But I mean, I'm just saying.
Listen, what I would tell these folks is I can attest to that. But what I also know as a learning in that situation, because I was in that situation, is you already know. And I used to express it. I knew I didn't feel that was my person. And it's like for a time I wanted that person to be my person, which is why I stuck it out like I did. But internally, I knew that wasn't my person. So I think people know. I think they just don't know how to maneuver past the knowing.
Yep.
Because the picture doesn't look pretty anymore once you figure that out.
And they don't want to be a statistic.
Yeah. Greg, good Lord, you hit that right. Yeah.
I don't want to be the one that has.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I stayed in a relationship like that because I didn't want to be a statistic, but it was unhealthy, it was unwise, and unfruitful.
And I think when you do that, though, you do damage to the other person, because I think when you do that, you basically are the cause of some of the failure points of that relationship, because that other person can feel that, and that
perpetual.
It opens the gate to other things. So yeah.
I agree.
So I love the theme song. I love it. I'm gonna replay it when this episode, like replays when I can listen to it. But thank you so much for being selfless with my audience, with my Jazzie crew, and sharing with us, tidbits, nuggets, profound advice that we can take, whether we are singles, whether we are in committed relationships, whether we are doing it forever. This conversation has been so great, and it is essential to marriage. And one of the things that I really love that you do is that you are intentional. And I think intentionality goes a very long way. Just those quarterly conversations that you guys have, your commitment to one another. I love seeing a couple where it's like, I wouldn't even dare try to step to him because he loves that woman. I wouldn't dare try to mess up what they have. I wouldn't dare try to step to her because she is committed to that man. Like I love when a relationship can appear to be impenetrable, and not just look that way, but we feel it. And I felt that from you too, which is why I reached out to you. And so thank you so much for being my special guest for this episode.
We're honored.
Thank you. This was awesome. This was really awesome.
You guys were awesome. And thank you so much, for the pre-production instances. Thank you so much for being so gracious during that. And so I do appreciate it. Make sure you guys follow Greg and Sharina on their socials. If you know someone who's in the housing market, they love, first-time owners or first-time buyers, they can help you with maybe they can help you with your rehab. They can just guide you along your whole journey into real estate. So these are definitely people who are going to be resources to you because they love to see the community thrive, not just them. So tap in. Okay. And so we will make sure we leave their information in the comment section. Thank you so much. This has been episode 143 of the Jazzie Conversations with Jazz podcast. Make sure you subscribe, you like, you follow, you leave us a review in the comment section. This will be available on all of your major podcast platforms, including IG, Facebook, and YouTube. So you choose how you want to support us. And always remember that now is a time for a dope comeback. You can come back from anything with God, the right resources, but knowing how to use those resources effectively and your willingness to do the necessary work. So I will see you back here next Monday for episode 144. Go forth in love. February is the love of Black history and of love. So we'll see you later. Goodbye, Greg and Sharina. Go love on each other. Have a good night.
You too.
Thank you.